Hello everyone, welcome to my marathon submission video for Astro Boy Omega Factor for Game Boy Advance. This is going to be the basic any percent category, which we call Birth. This game has a couple of different playthroughs that you can go through, which are a couple of different categories, and we are going through the first leg of the game, and it is going to be played on the easiest difficulty. The game doesn't substantially change throughout the difficulties, except for having far fewer super attacks, which does make things more difficult, it must be said, but it also does slow the run down a lot, and there are some particular tricks that you can do due to having a lot of super attacks. One of the main things that we really use throughout the run. So, without further ado, we're going to get going in 3, 2, 1, and go. So this is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up game. It is a standard treasure title. If you've ever played games like Gunstar Heroes or Alien Soldier, it's very much in the vein of those games. Now, Astro has a few different basic attacks, such as the punch, which you're already seeing some of here, and being able to use jets to boost yourself, and a couple of different super attacks you can use as well. There's also a finger laser, which you can use like this, and there's a kick that you can also use, which is a standard hand-to-hand attack, but it also turns enemies into projectiles, and can be used to make enemies collide with each other. Finger laser, hopefully, for these. Yeah, so what you're going to see a lot of in this game is that there's a lot of enemy waves and there's a lot of random positions that the enemies are going to spawn in. So, by and large, this is a fairly RNG heavy game in the sense of waves are going to take a little longer, a little shorter, depending on where spawns are, including that car. It can either spawn high or low, and if it spawns low, there's virtually no way to avoid it. Now, getting the first upgrade point here. So this game actually has a fairly detailed upgrade system, where every time you meet a character and Astro learns about their personality and emotions, you gain a upgrade point to allocate into different stats. You can see on the upgrade screen there are a lot of stats that you can choose from. For the purpose of the run, we are interested in boosting exclusively the laser stat to begin with, and then the shot stat for the second half of the game. The shot is what I've been using on the last couple of waves in order to use a screen-wide machine gun attack. It is very weak, but it does have screen-wide utility and clearing projectiles off screen. It's going to have some extra utility as well, which is not really going to be visible until the end of the game once you level that stat up more. Laser is far more self-explanatory though, where the arm cannon and the finger laser are going to be two of the main damage sources throughout the game. And so boosting that stat early is just going to increase DPS output overall by a huge margin, more than any other upgrade choice you can make pretty much. And additionally, there's two different modes you have in this game. Currently we're in these just running around and hand-to-hand sections. There's also sections where you are stuck in your flight form, and in those sections all you have is the laser to work with. So if you upgrade the punch, then you can potentially dispatch screens like this sooner, but the punch is inaccessible during the flight segments. So it simply works out that boosting the laser a lot winds up being much faster overall. So 3 punches and 2 arm cannons to finish that mini boss off. Gonna get second upgrade point here, so again, just gonna continue boosting the laser stat. And we come into the stage 1 boss here, Magnemite. So this is a 4-cycle boss fight, where every 25% of his health he does this, becomes invulnerable for a bit, and repeats trying to attack, depending on where you're standing on him. But in order to get through each phase, all I need with 2 laser upgrades is 1 punch plus an arm cannon. Oh, I missed the punch there, which isn't a big deal, but I'm just going to take a hit here. I need to wait for him to come down. Which thankfully doesn't take too long, because he comes down sooner the lower his health is, and he was at absolutely minimum health there for having only missed the first punch, because he is invulnerable until he finishes that bobbing up and down animation. So here is the first of the auto-scroller segments where you are in flight form and can only use the finger laser. So again, in these sections you cannot use the punch stat at all, and this is one of the main reasons why it really pays to boost the laser as much as possible in the early game, because there are a few of these sections and you save a surprising amount of time by having a stronger laser, especially when you are repeatedly using the arm cannon to dispatch mini bosses. I'm going to use 1 arm cannon here just to clear this wave a bit faster. Now these spike ball enemies are a little unique in that you don't actually need to damage them at all to dispatch them. You just need to get within a close proximity of them and they automatically detonate after a couple of seconds. So mini boss time here, so again I'm just going to use a couple of arm cannons to burn through it really quickly. Alright, there we go. Now, small optimizations in this game largely come in the form of clearing enemy waves as quickly as possible. The rule of this game is that new enemy waves do not start until the previous wave has been defeated, and the game defines the previous wave being defeated as their corpses leaving the screen. So it's not enough to just kill enemies, they need to actually exit the screen for the next waves to start. More arm cannon spam for the artificial sun here. It's going to take 3 plus a little bit of finger lasering here to finish it off. It does get larger as its health drains. As you can see, it ends up taking a very large proportion of the screen. That's all fine. I'm going to go straight into another mini boss fight straight after these cutscenes. And the pure HP count, this is one of the weakest enemies in the entire game. Just melts. So a little bit of finicky movement in this next screen that we're about to reach, as it's dark, and if you boost Astro's hyper sensor stat, you can see in the dark here, but the stat really doesn't do anything for you otherwise, and you still know where to go in the screen, so there's really no need to actually boost that stat. Need to destroy this statue on the left in order to open the door at the end of the room. Right, fairly simple. One punch plus an arm cannon here will dispatch this guy. Going to be the same with the next wave that's going to drop down, and I'm going to use a boost at a particular point in order to just phase through those enemies. So one note about movement in this game is that boosting with the jet is faster, obviously, but it also makes you completely intangible. Like, it's not even that you can't take damage, which, that's true, you can't take damage whilst you're boosting, but you don't even really have an active hitbox and nothing can really collide with you during that. So the boost can be used to get out of literally any bad situation, as long as you are able to use it at the right time. The exception is that when you start the boost, there is a few frames where Astro somersaults in the air before starting the boost. You are still solid during that time, and enemy attacks can collide with you during that time. So, being all the way to the right here, there's a weird sort of intangibility you can get there where the enemy fails to drop on you and damage you properly. If you just stand there and let him collide with you, then he does hit you. So, boss fight here in the form of Pook. He's a robot with multiple different animal forms. He's going to go through 4 different forms at the start of the fight. So I've got Lion last. This is the best because the Lion form has some automatic time loss every time it comes out due to having a green shield. We can mitigate this by going behind him, which forces him to turn around. Now that he's gone through all 4 forms, it's completely random which he's going to use. Just want to see the Lion as little as possible now. Okay, bud. So he's got one more form switch. Just please don't be Lion. Well, alright. Still, yeah, it's whatever. Getting Lion once is pretty average, I would say. So overall, you know, not a bad stage at all. So this is the one spot where I'm going to deviate from the upgrade route of just boosting laser. I'm actually going to put my first point into shot here for stage 3. Because the start of stage 3, which takes place on the moon, is a low gravity stage, and some of these first enemy waves, they're going to spawn all over the map. And in some cases, they're going to spawn on opposite ends of the screen, such as here. And it's much better for me to just be able to kill them all simultaneously like that, rather than run around and try and clean them up. So a nice little trick that I'm going to be using for the next wave here in the upwards silo section is I'm just going to stand at the bottom here, and I'm going to wait for the enemies to gradually spawn. Because they're all going to need to spawn roughly in the same spots here. It makes it a lot easier for me to just cluster them up and kill them fairly quickly. This was originally thought of by Sonic Star, and I do really like this strat. Not... Still being really awkward here, though. Okay, as long as I get to the top here... Okay, I need to use the EX dash. So it's not too often that you see the third special attack that Astro can use there, the EX dash. That is performed by using A and B on the same frame, and it essentially gives you an extra boost that you can use. You're going to boost through this next wave here, then turn around and arm cannon hit all 6 of these at the same time. A lot of arm cannons here because these enemies now, it manages to hit more simultaneously and they do have a generally bigger health pool. It is not faster to arm cannon on this wave though. It is faster to do this if you can hit them all with the correct positioning. Got it, nice. Normal punch combo for this guy. You need one more arm cannon for an enemy that spawns here, then boost straight down into one more arm cannon again. Now, depending on how those enemies die, it's possible to skip this enemy if the previous robot leaves the screen before that guy comes on, but it's basically random whether that happens. And now just one more boost downward here to counteract the low gravity and progress as quick as we can manage. Straight into the goblin mech. We're going to need punches in between each of these arm cannons to make up a little bit of damage per attack cycle. Oh, I missed that one. That's fine. Oh, got him. There we go. So here's another room with poor visibility because I don't have any points in the hypersensor, but again, I don't need to see where I'm going here. I'm going to pick up an optional upgrade point here. So this upgrade point is a little bit out of the way, but it more than makes up the time spent getting it to actually get it, because this is a really weird screen of the game. This enemy wave I'm going into right here. Is he going to come on screen? Looks like I had to help him out a bit. That's fine. So this enemy wave right here, for whatever reason, if you don't get the upgrade point that I just did, this screen lags incredibly hard. It lags every other frame and makes this screen take twice as long. But if you get that upgrade point, the lag does not occur. I do not know why it works like that, but it does work like that. And yeah, it's one of the more confusing time saves in this game. And that allowed us to basically change the upgrade route in this game to skip getting an upgrade point that's a little more out of the way in stage 2 in lieu of getting that one. It's the same number of upgrades, but it's just a slightly faster path overall. I'm going to use one more shot here because these small enemies are particularly difficult to hit hand to hand, and I'm going to try and scroll them off screen to start this wave a little sooner. Nice. So a little something that I did there was I actually performed a boost after a couple of punches. That's to reset my punch combo. Because you normally do 3 punches into a kick, and by resetting it there, I'm able to do 3 punches into 3 punches, which is slightly faster. Can just sit inside Atlas's energy attack there. Going to boost to the right of him and push him here to manipulate the positioning for the end of the fight. I might need some finger laser to finish him off from this health. A little bit. So the idea of that is to force Atlas to finish close to where the fight actually ends, so that in that cutscene there, he spends less time traveling to the position where he's going to end up. So coming into stage 4 now, the South Pole. Finishing boosting the laser staff, so from here on out, any upgrade points that I get are going to be put exclusively into the shot staff. Need to make sure I actually get on the screen border for this wave. Yeah, it's a little weird how this sort of thing works, where there's a lot of instances where I am boosting to the side of an enemy and then facing inwards to hit the entire screen. The general idea behind this is that enemies and Astro cannot occupy the same space. So if you end up on the very edge of the screen, once you become tangible again after your boost runs out, something has to move aside, because again, you and the enemy can't be in the same space. So as long as you are closer to the border of the screen than the enemy is, it forces the enemy into the screen, and from there you can just turn around and fire straight across the screen and hit everything that's on screen. It is possible, though, for enemies to be on the very border of the screen, and then in those cases, it doesn't necessarily force them sideways, and you're the one who ends up getting pushed towards the center of the screen. So just another pretty standard auto-scroller here. These sections of the run are, for sure, the perfect time for donations. Destroying these enemies really doesn't do anything to actually progress the stage, but there's nothing else to really do in these sections. Destroying that circular wave is not as trivial as it looks, though, because they do have quite a generous amount of invincibility. But this should be bouncing, but yeah. So can't damage these, this is just entirely fixed pace. All you can really do is position yourself for the next enemy wave that's going to be coming up. It's going to be in the left hit. Now these are going to gradually come down from the left, yep. And one large enemy to finish, just one arm cannon and then finger laser it. Faster to finish off with the finger laser because it has little enough HP remaining that it's faster to not get the 2-second startup animation from the arm cannon. Two arm cannons here to start, then I'm going to take a damage boost here, finger laser down one more chunk of the health bar, and finish off with one more arm cannon. That's, for RTA purposes, that's generally the most optimal way to play that fight, but it's very, very gradual, the time differences, depending on how you do that boss. There's really, like, not a lot of variance in that fight. Now, this screen is... it's a doozy, because you've got enemies coming on from both sides of the screen, and the screen is wide enough that you can't get a view of the entire screen. So I'm going to be using a lot of kicks here to cluster enemies in the same spot and use some arm cannons to try and deal as much damage as I can quickly to them. This should finish off this way. Unless they get pushed off screen. Okay, no good. I wasn't entirely sure if they'd gotten pushed off screen there. Okay, good. I'm glad that guy punched to the left. So the enemy colours do dictate how strong the enemies generally are, and the two top tiers are red and purple, which don't get staggered. So you can be like hitting, like these black coloured enemies, they get staggered, but the red guy does not get staggered. So the red guy, for instance, is readying up a punch, and if that collides with you, it doesn't matter what you're doing, it just forces you to get knocked back. So getting hit by those can... I mean, nothing in this game really loses a huge amount of time, but it's something you'd obviously rather do without. Oh, please die. Now this, thankfully, is the final auto-scroller of the run. Ooh, that was actually pretty nice. One more platform's going to come from the bottom. Right, there we go. Decent screen so far. Since, as I say, even though this is an auto-scroller, most of the new waves coming, when they do, is dictated by when the previous waves die. This one is an exception. It doesn't actually matter how quickly I kill these red guys on the platforms, but there's no reason to really not do it. That was actually a good time to take a damage boost there, since I could then just phase into that last guy's hitbox. So these are the same enemies that I mentioned before, where I don't need to actually damage these, I just need to get near their hitboxes, force them to detonate early. Now, if you can maintain constant contact with those large platforms, it is very slightly faster to use a finger laser rather than an arm cannon, but you need to maintain constant contact with them. And it also does depend on how low they go, because you are waiting for the platform itself to fall off the bottom of the screen. So this is an RNG mini-boss, where this last phase, this turret, can use multiple different attacks. This is the good one, though, because it stays open long enough to just arm cannon down in one cycle, so that's very favourable RNG there. Okay. Wind is constantly pushing you back here, but it goes away as soon as you get inside the train. Oh, that's an enemy to my right. I'm getting punched. Yeah. So that's an example of what happens when you get punched, and that's why you don't necessarily want that to happen. I'm fine with taking this section safe by just using a couple of arm cannons once all the enemies have come on screen. It's a little irritating that you can't see when the enemies have come on screen because of the train in the foreground. Generally, though, if you wait for one attack to come and then pick a side to boost to, all 6 of them are on screen by that time. This was a pretty fun section to TAS. I did semi-recently finish making a TAS of this category, and this section I actually turned off the foreground layer to make it easier to work with. Dead Cross is really pathetic. You just arm cannon him a few times, and this goblin mech is also going to die before it has a chance to do anything. It looks like it's going to attack me, and then it doesn't, because it dies. Pretty convenient. And then you save a bunch of time, apparently, over your PB/world record, because that's the thing that you do. So continue boosting the shot. So, you may be thinking, well, I haven't really used the shot at all in the run yet. And you're correct, I haven't. And I'm still not going to use it throughout Stage 6. But I'm going to use a lot of it in Stage 7. I'm not going to spoil it, you're just going to be able to see that. It's good, I promise. Really good. So, large thing here. And another one, but this time I'm going to boost to the side of it because there's another one on the other side of the screen. Same thing here, but with enemies added. I don't like this wave at all. Because that guy can potentially stay like that. And then if they start shielding, you need to... Please? There you go. If they start shielding, the only way you can really force them to stop is by completely jumping away, because they keep the shield up, like, forever, as far as I can tell. Okay, one wave of little guys here. Using a kick there to try and cluster them in such a way that they all like hit each other and cause extra damage. Same thing here, using a kick to try and cluster these guys. Please die. Please die. Please die. There we go. Yeah, when you're using the kick to juggle enemies like that, it does depend like how many collisions per enemy you get of each other for the total damage done, if that makes sense. Now this is a perfect example of the intangibility that you get afforded to you by using the boost, that I can just go straight through those wheels, which under normal circumstances have massive knockback. This fight used to be an RNG nightmare of sorts, where Shariku can use a couple of different special attacks, which are color-coded. If he uses the green attack, he becomes completely invulnerable and uses a really long special attack, which wastes in the region of like 15 seconds. Thankfully, if you force him to use a different one, such as this red attack, by being below him as the fight starts, he can't use more than one special attack at a time. So the red attack goes for the duration of the fight, and you can avoid that forced time loss basically every time. Keep boosting shot. But I'm still not using the shot. Why am I going in on this stat when I could be boosting punch? Well, we're about to see. Final stage of the run, and this is a boss rush, world's strongest robots. We need to fight 5 robots in a row, starting with North, the versatile robot. Should have time to get 2 arm cannons here before his attack goes off. I'm going to have some intangibility and not get hit by his laser. Now we come to the second robot, Denko, the invisible robot. And this fight normally takes quite a long time, because every time you attack him, he becomes invisible. You need to turn off some nodes and be able to keep hitting him. But we are able to use a little bit of an exploit here. So I mentioned that the shot is screen wide and it does stun. The stun time of the shot is proportional to how much it's leveled up. So once you level it up to a certain point, you can infinitely stun lock bosses. You can just keep on stunning them, keep on arm cannoning them, and lock them down from being able to do any intended mechanics whatsoever. And this is even more pronounced on this fight against Brontus, who is starting off with this attack. That's fine, because he's always going to go into his weakened phase here. Now I'm going to be able to use a shot and 2 arm cannons, and I just then refresh with another shot, and he's not going to have a chance to do any more actions this fight. That looks broken. It's because it is. It's a real exploit to be using the shot like this, and we're about to have it fully leveled up for Epsilon, the aquatic robot. Now, there's a few different attacks Epsilon can start off with. I'm going to start with a shot to see what attack he's leading with. Okay, so I'm going to need to use one more shot here after 2 lasers. Raising his left arm, which is his laser attack, and that actually does give him invincibility, so I don't want to sit through that. If he was raising his right arm, it's just any of his other attacks, and I would just laser through and damage race him through it. So one last upgrade point, just put this into life because it's the fastest one to assign to, and we've got the final boss, Pluto, which is going to receive the exact same treatment as every other boss. Oh, except starting off with revolving. Okay, since he's doing this, I'm actually going to go in with laser as much as I can. Now I'm going to stun him. Gonna have time for 2. Well, I'll just need to jump and then resume attacking, actually. I just want to hope that he doesn't use his plasma attack, is the main thing. Time is when Pluto's health reaches 0. So time is going to be when my next arm cannon finishes. That's it. That's time. Wow, saved a little bit of time in this split as well. Nice. And then you get, time bonus. You still scroll through the screen, but as I say, this is a run of the first leg of the game, which is the de facto any % category. Then you get Pluto's upgrade point, you watch a couple more cutscenes, and then the world is destroyed. It's a total apocalypse, like, oops, good end, except not good end. Because then you've got to do the second playthrough to get the good end, and even then you don't get the good end, and you've got to do post-game stuff and, like, rearrange the timeline, and it's a really confusing game. But it's a really good game. And it's a really good run, in my opinion. I do enjoy this run a lot. It's a really nice and easy run to get into, though the optimization ceiling is very high just because of how many incremental frame savers there are. But yeah, I think this run is a lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoy it. And that is going to be it for Astro Boy Omega Factor Birth category. Thank you very much for your consideration.